Welcome to the Face-to-Face. I'm your host, Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre. Face-to-Face is a bilingual series recorded here in Coquitlam. We acknowledge that Coquitlam is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Coquitlam. We thank the Coquitlam people who continue to live on these lands and care for them, along with the waters and all that is above and below. Today on the Face-to-Face, I am sitting with Isabel Silvestre from Burke Mountain Residents Association. Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, welcome. I've been looking about what the association is doing. I've been following a little bit here and there. I even lately attended the last meeting, and I want to put a bit of lights on what's happening here on Burke Mountain and with the association. And also we want to go through what you guys are doing and what's planned for 2024. So that's a lot of questions all at once. So let's start with the first question. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about, tell me actually, what is the Burke Mountain Residents Association?
So the association has been actually established for over 50 years. It was actually traditionally, originally called the Northeast Coquitlam Ratepayers Association. And so when I joined and I was looking into this community group that existed here on Burke, I was a bit confused with the name convention, and I had to sort of understand what the ratepayers were about. And so it was only recently we have sort of adopted a slightly different name, just so that residents here can identify with what the organization is about, which is exactly what it stands for. It's for residents who live here on the community, and we discuss different matters that really just resonate with us, whether it's concerns about the developments happening, just interests in making sure that bears and humans coexist safely. So we deal with a variety of topics, and it changes every month, and depending on what happens, such as like the severe rainfall that we had, we have different issues that pop up. So we don't have any plans per se in terms of what the big scope is, but we work on different pockets of topics that people present to us.
I can see. Who are members of the association?
So there is a constitution, and some of our members have been living on this mountain for maybe even over 60, 70 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's amazing. I feel very privileged to be alongside members who, actually we have roads named after them. We have
roads and bridges.
Roads and bridges, yeah. So a lot of these members who were the original inhabitants here on Burke Mountain. And so we originally used to have our meetings down in Victoria Hall, which was actually, some of those members actually helped build the hall. And so it was really hard for them to move to our new location, which is at the Discovery Center meeting room, just by the cafe. And so with that, I think we've started getting some new traction and sort of more new residents attending our meetings, which is wonderful, because in truth, like, the future of this mountain isn't really about those that are, about to retire or might be moving on. It's really, the future is for us, and really thinking through what is left to develop, but the community center, the schools, all the different pieces that come together, making sure we have like a very solid and supportive community for everyone here.
Okay, so how does it work? If we see an issue or there's a concern, we can just reach out and talk with you, because you're president of the association right now. Correct. So they reach out to you and you can bring the concern or the problem to the council. And are you working in relation with Coquitlam?
So yeah, so good question. So we are the residents of Burke Mountain, and Burke Mountain being in lines with the city of Coquitlam. So there are certain topics that may have some reaching pieces to the city, and we'll connect with whether staff members or council or mayor, whatever that may be, to look into the matters further. We also have like associations that just like animals, don't see the boundaries. And so we have Hyde Creek, which is technically below Victoria, but we are still in terms of connecting with them, because we realize that, our waters from the top of this mountain go down to the bottom. And so, yes, that's Port Coquitlam, but we work and collaborate with those individuals as well. So typically, we have an email, we have my number, but we also like a roll account, but we also have our Burke Mountain Facebook page, which we post our agendas on in terms of what we're going to be discussing on a regular per month. And as a member, people can sign up as a $10 membership that comes up annually in the fall. And that gives access to Zoom link to our meetings, which is a sort of a newer feature, minutes in terms of what we're talking about, and also being able to vote on different matters. So as a group, we decide if there's certain matters people present and we want to write a letter on behalf of the entire group to support something. Again, that's a thing that as an active paid member, we will support. So there's different things that people have come and raised concerns or just wanting to seek advice. And that could be just the type of development coming through. It could be the safety of a road. And again, just trying to understand who to approach at the city or who to approach in the community for those resources. And this is where we come into play, just having that wealth of understanding from the individuals who are members and have been here for a long time, who have seen things and may know things, even beyond some of the staff member at the city who have only worked for a couple of years, just because the portfolio might be a very long portfolio, and so the history is there. So yeah, we're able to, again, if we can't help, we try to forward it on and just help those individuals connect to the right resources and areas that they need to go to.
Excellent. Can you give me an example of maybe a file, something that happened and that you guys took on and created a difference in a community?
Yeah, so recently we had, so there was our member noticed on their way home, there was piles of soil being dumped along Quarry Road, right along Minicata Park. And what was particular about the soil, that it was, it seemed to have plastics and it wasn't just pure soil, let's just say. So it was contaminated in some form. And so after the meeting, and so at that time, we were concerned about that, especially because of the proximity to Minicata Park, and they have a sensitive habitat, including the frogs. And so at that meeting, we decided if it was identified that soil truly was contaminated, I was going to check it out and take photos. Then we were going to send a letter on behalf of our association to the various members, individuals. So Metro Vancouver, Minicata, the city of Coquitlam, and so forth. Just to raise this awareness and to understand where the soil is coming. We didn't know who or how it was getting there, but we knew something needed to be done. So yeah, within a very short period of time, we received a response and that soil was taken away. And, if people aren't aware, on Quarry Road, there's little frogs that cross that road at certain times of the year. And so it's flourishing, but, it is a sensitive habitat. And it was great to have, us be able to identify something that was a concern. Even Minicata wasn't aware of that situation until we raised that on their awareness and made sure that was taken care of. So again, we look after not only just human concerns, but even the wildlife that we have around us.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Is there a lot of people that don't know that you exist?
I would say yes.
Yes?
Yes. I think, I would say we're not the most active on Facebook. So we are not as vocal in that way, but we would welcome lots of individuals. And we understand it's hard to attend meetings. Our meetings is every third Thursday of the month from 7 to 9. It's a bit bit of a big commitment, but we're trying to start this Zoom sort of
The Zoom option.
just to give people that option to be able to attend virtually. We understand you might be at a soccer game or a hockey game, but you might want to listen in to understanding what's going on, or even just reading our minutes and seeing what was discussed. So we hope that allows people the opportunity to just understand what we're doing and tap in, or be able to send letters of concern to us as well if there's something that needs to be discussed. Yeah.
What's planned for 2025 with the Burke Mountain Residents Association?
Well, we don't have a fixed plan because a lot of topics do come as per what issues or concerns or matters are of importance to individuals. I think one of the things that's come to light is fire prevention. We're seeing the fires in California, and I think that's we started that discussion just this month, but I think there will be more of an interest in seeing how we can collaborate and get maybe some educational advocacy and resourcing from the city to help residents know how to prepare for a fire and mitigate those concerns. The other piece is also just following the city's plans for building the community center. So those are things that have been discussions, there's budget lines, and we really want to make sure that we're following it through and seeing where they are, including the commercial space as well. So that alongside the Coquitlam Community Center will be our sort of pieces that are sort of top of mind for now.
So when should we expect our community center?
Well, I don't work at the city, so I don't know. There's lots to be done because the trees are still up. So one of the first pieces that need to come down, and I just asked, is there plans to cut down the trees? So I believe that should be done before, and I have been following through and before bird nesting season. So it should happen hopefully in the next couple months before that happens, so they can start clearing the land and prepping it for development. Yeah.
So what's the biggest challenges facing the Burke Mountain community?
Oh, I'm just trying to think. I think we have a growing population, but the infrastructure here hasn't been built to support us. And I think, that's not a new concern or a problem that's faced in building communities, at least in BC, from my knowledge. It's quite common. And I think that's the challenge, is the amount of driving that we all have to do down this mountain to get our groceries.
Anywhere.
Everything that we do,
Because I gotta say, we're on Burke Mountain right now. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, you have to be mindful of planning out your route home to make sure you're grabbing all the things you do that you need, because we don't have those amenities. Even the schools that are finally being built, that was a real big push, and that was a lot of advocacy and work that had to be done to get those schools built here. So it's just everything. We have a Shoppers, which is wonderful, and a few other things, but that really isn't meeting the needs of what we truly, really need. And that community hub will really start building our community. The more schools that we have, again, having more families really get together and connect with one another. And even if you don't have children, there's spaces in those schools, the libraries, the gyms, and so forth, that are open to the public. And with the middle secondary school, the fields and the other spaces that's available, again, for the public, it'll be just wonderful to have those spaces that we can all use and share and build a sense of community. Because right now there's a lot of I would say a lot of transient. We're moving. Our children are going to schools in other areas and the other catchments, just because that's where people move from and continue to having to go to. So there is a broken community, I find. It's not a whole community. And I look forward to trying to build that sense when people move here. Their children go to school here, they shop here, and they go to the gym and get healthy and just are together as a community. And that's what I hope to see in the future.
It is true that if we want to go to the community center just to go to the gym, let's say, like, there's no place on Burke Mountain. So everybody's going a little bit all over, and then it is not making a community closer because we're going everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a good point here. Now let's talk about traffic. So I think we know anybody that is in Coquitlam, specifically, even I would say Port Coquitlam, we have to drive up Coast Meridian Street, and I've been hearing a lot in the news, a little bit all over, the traffic becomes a bit of a problem. And there's two cities that needs to talk, and I think it's a bit difficult. And I know you don't work for the city, so I don't know how far we can go with this question, but I was wondering if the association has put pressure or reached out to the city to see what's happening to connect. I think there's an area lower that can be connecting together between Coquitlam and Port Coquitlam, so we can release some of that traffic and make it a little bit easier for anybody that lives on top of the mountain. And I'm always worried also about the emergency component of that. You've been stuck in that traffic. I have been stuck in that traffic, and I'm always sitting in my car and I'm thinking, if there's an emergency right now, I cannot even go right or left. I'm stuck. So tell me.
Well, interesting enough, the city of Coquitlam's plans for Coast Meridian was not 4 lanes. It was something that actually before my time, it was the Northeast Coquitlam ratepayers advocated strongly to widen the road all the way up to Harper, being 4 lanes. It was going to be reduced a lot lower.
It was supposed to be 2 lanes already.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I think so that gives you a starting point of I think what happens in a lot of times in development, even the original OCP, official community plan that the city has drew up, was for a population of 25,000. Just last fall, they are now confirming that this population will most likely be 70,000.
Okay. Basically, almost 3 times.
And that was just, that was again, that was last year, and they keep changing that. So who's to say it's not 100,000 by the time it's all built out? So there's, again, things come after the fact. So, I believe they've discussed about the connector, but there does have to be that partnership and discussion between the 2 municipalities, and money is a huge factor, right? So if there isn't that push, I see that there's development in the east side now of Coast that you can see where there would be more pressure and more of a population to support the need to say that now at this point we need to start working on that infrastructure. Now, does that infrastructure cost also come from the federal government? I don't know, because it is roadways, so I'm not sure where that falls. So again, that piece, I would have to learn from my senior members in terms of how that all plays out. But I know it's just that continuous dialogue. Population plays into the factor of what's important. And every year, if people are interested, is looking at that budget line. So the cities, both cities are publicizing what their budgets and what's important. And, as residents, you have a say in terms of what you feel should be a top of mind piece. So if you don't see that as top of mind, you might want to write to your mayor, write to your council and say, hey, I don't see this in the budget line, or I see this down low and it's not this year's plans. When is it coming about? So, that's where advocacy and getting people together and pushing that pressure on the cities, can change things.
So what else the Burke Mountain residents should be expecting in the next few years?
Let's see. Well, it will be the middle secondary school that people have been looking forward to. I know there's, I was part of the group that spearheaded getting the schools on the mountain. So that'll be super exciting to have people be able to attend from kindergarten and preschool, actually, all the way up to, grade 12. So that'll be a warm welcome. And then the community center, hopefully soon. hopefully sooner, but having that center as well will be wonderful, just so again there's that sense of community. That's years to come, but it's around the corner. I see the middle school and the secondary school as that big hub that we all see, that big bare space, and people are like, well, I miss the trees. I'm like, yes, but we're gonna finally have a school for our children. So, and there'll be just these open fields and spaces too, walking tracks that people can be using. So there is public space. It's not just for the students. So yeah, I think that's the biggest things that people will be seeing. That's that we've been waiting for quite a long time.
Yes. Can you talk to us a little bit about what happened? I think, is it October 19? What was the last very big rain we had? And even water was overflowing a creek not far from my house. And how was that like received by the city? I know it's hard everywhere. I know lower Burke Mountain was like flooded. Houses were flooded. I could see people's car underwater because their driveway was lower. So I'm pretty sure you guys touched that, what happened, the incident.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit how the city reacted?
Sure.
If you have any information on that.
Yeah, so we did write, well, I wrote on, because it was after a meeting and before the next meeting, so I just took it upon myself just to ask an inquiry question just on my behalf, not the groups. But we did receive a response from the city, and then as a group we responded back in terms of the response the city had. And on the whole, understanding that it happened on a Saturday, on a weekend, and staffing maybe slightly more limited than during the week. The city did its best in terms of being able and being visible, working on each situation. But like you said, it was
so much.
It was so much.
For a long time.
Yeah.
I did see actually someone from the city came here. They came here and they managed it, but there was a lot of debris down the street. They got clean. They cleaned it, but I can't imagine how much work that was all at once. Yeah.
And I think the other situation that people didn't realize is also there was that extreme slide that took the life of an individual on Quarry Road. So there was that which actually blocked the road, took life, and I think at that time they didn't realize how many who was missing. And it wasn't just this mountain that was having an issue in Coquitlam. Again, other low-lying areas in Coquitlam were facing the same situations where flooding and so forth. We lost a gentleman down Coquitlam River. It was, unprecedented. And, I think, commend the city and the staff for acting. I made a call in terms of an area that was just water coming down and needed to, the developer needed to come on site to be able to manage that. And so, again, it was unprecedented, and hopefully, with that, the city can learn from those opportunities and sort of make some changes and adjust. But again, our water goes down to Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, and so those residents also had dealt with the rain that was coming down this mountain. So without the trees and everything else, it doesn't slow that down. So really making sure that we're doing our due diligence, making sure the water basins are clean and cleared. So there's actually Adopt a Catch Basin initiative that the city has done just to make sure that those are clear of leaves and so forth. So any resident in Coquitlam or can go and see if there's a basin that they can adopt, and you just take responsibility of making sure that that's clear. So I've got a couple, and I'm sure there's many out there, and if you just search it on the Coquitlam website, that's one thing that you can do just to help out the community.
Do you have any city councilor that attend to the meeting sometimes?
Yeah, so we always like to have counselors attend. I know it's hard because many of them do have meetings at the same time. So Rob, for example, lives on the mountain and attends regularly. We have Craig Hodge has attended. Brent used to Edmondson. He also is a resident out here. We haven't seen him for a while, but we welcome these members to attend and just listen to the concerns that, or just hear about when it comes to interest, a lot of times, it doesn't necessarily need to be a concern, more just of a topic of interest, something to share sometimes. So those are the things that, I think it's important for counselors and mayors and staff just to hear what the hot topics are here in the mountain, and not just to be reading them on Facebook, but like having some deeper conversations about that.
Around it.
Yeah.
So I think you've heard about the rock, right? There was a rock that was found, I think, on the side in the middle of Coast Meridian. Can you tell us a bit of the story and what's the concern around the rock?
Well, I don't know the story, which would be interesting.
It was on social media, right?
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think so. I think I caught this on social media.
All right. So I don't know what the thread of this, the social media piece was said, or how it got there. But there was an extremely large rock.
Okay, so if you tell me, like...
I would say the rock, well, I actually took a picture of the rock. And if anyone has those blue IKEA bins...
Okay, so it's maybe 2 feet by 1 foot?
Yeah.
How about that?
It was bigger than that.
Okay.
So just to give you a dimension. I know my husband drove by. He said he could not pick up the rock.
Okay.
And another gentleman too said, no, it's too heavy to pick up by one person. So just to give you how big that rock was. And that was by Lincoln and Coast Meridian. Okay. So technically not in Coquitlam. And if I believe last year there was a gentleman driving up Coast Meridian in Port Coquitlam who had a rock go through his back window, and luckily there was no one sitting there to be injured. So I think the concerns are this is an extreme rock. We're not sure where this rock is, whether it came from a yard or came from a truck, but there has been quite a few rocks coming off the sites that are being just exposed. So after the clearing of the trees, they need to prep the ground and get that going. And what happens is that these rocks get lodged in between the two wheels of trucks, and then they spin out. And sometimes you'll see these rocks scattered on the roads. And then sometimes you also see ones that are been used for crushed rocks that are used so that the trucks just drive over, so they're not bringing the sediment onto the road. So a wonderful idea by reducing the soil sediment going onto the road, but now it's caused another problem because they get stuck in, if you think of the tread of these trucks, they're quite large, and that's where they sometimes get lodged. So, part of the work is that the truck drivers and the site needs to make sure that the truck is safe, and making sure there's no rock debris on top or their tires are clear. However, that's not always the case. And so they're leaving their sites and dropping these rocks along the way. And so it doesn't take much by just going and following the rocks and following where these sites are being exposed to see where they're coming from. You can't say 100% it's coming from that site, because a lot of the sites are sort of together, but you get a sense where the truck routes are and these rocks. And what's concerning is that, we have bike lanes, kids, adults are using the scooter lane, the road lanes for scooters. And they're there. There's even onto the sidewalks. We see that rocks have gone up that far. I know someone's tire got slashed so bad that they can't use it anymore because it just impacted them. Myself, I have a electric battery down below, and I heard this big thump, thinking, oh, what could it have damaged my vehicle? We checked it out, it was fine. But again, like
you never know.
You never know, right? And these are the concerns, not only just for our vehicles, was one thing, but also humans and kids. We have daycares that are walking along the roads on the sidewalks, and at any point, these rocks that are just, can be launched at any point, may actually hurt someone. And, we don't want the same situation happening as what happened to that one woman who got killed on the number 1 highway from a rock that had, leaped over and went through her window. So this is a concern, I find, in terms of not just our community here in Coquitlam, because these trucks don't just drive around here. They're driving here in Port Coquitlam and all around the communities, and And this is, I think, a bigger issue as well that needs to be identified, and looking at it in a more strategic way, and talking to the various stakeholders. So whether that's the Truckers Association, whether it's the Ministry of Transport and Safety, the various municipalities. Again, this is not a purely isolated and only Coquitlam issue. This is a situation I feel that is happening all over and in other municipalities. So just the quality and the quality assurance in terms of safety by these drivers is just not being maintained, and we need to look at how can we work better and smarter and reinforce the importance of ensuring that, you know, when you're leaving a site, it's done safely, you know.
Okay, one more thing. You touched on a little bit forest fire. I think there's a lot of forest here. I know it's not, we're more of a dense forest here. There's different like things we have to be worried or think about when we think about forest fire. But climate change, I mean, there's a green belt right here. There's another one over there. There's houses that are really close to those green belts. And you always think, like what was it last year, a couple of years ago, we had a fire in Minicana, right? Park. And that is quite close. If you look at when the wind picks up, this is basically nothing to come all the way to our area here. So my question is, I'm sure this type of question will also be, we kind of need to talk or to work also with the fire department. But I'd be curious to know, is there any educational piece coming with that to offer to the Burke Mountain resident?
So you bring up a great topic. So it is something that was just recently discussed, and we also had those same concerns and wanted to approach the city. So in terms of fires, actually the Minicata fire, because it wasn't in the city itself, so there's two levels of firefighting, and so both units sort of were involved. And I think that will be an important piece as well, as understanding there's different jurisdictions that deal with the sort of the municipal, more home sort of based fires versus out in the forest. But regardless, I think education is important, and we need to do our part as well. So making sure that, you know, when we look around our yards and we have dead cedars, for example, which seems to be something that's happening just because the root system doesn't go deep, and they are prone to drought quite easily, and making sure those are removed and to mitigate any risk that may be involved. So thinking about things like that and making, you know, as you said, you know, fires spread quickly. Our homes are made of very toxic things that light up on fire very quickly. Most of our homes have siding, and that's just, it's a
vinyl siding,
yes,
right? Vinyl siding.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, so that again, those are some concerns. But once again, though, we need to then look at ways that we can, you know, reduce that risk. And I think with education and a better understanding, and in making sure we're all doing our part, we can help do that for sure.
Okay, one more question. A couple of years ago, I think you helped doing the radon research.
Radon, yes.
The radon. Research, or how you call it?
It was take action on radon.
Thank you.
Yes.
So what came out of this initiative?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So I work at the University of Simon Fraser University, and one of the faculty members, Anne-Marie, works there, and this is one of her projects that she leads. And so when I heard about this opportunity to be able to have 100 radon kits disseminated within the community, I thought that was a great idea, because we don't know where radon is until homes are built. So you can't just test soil, you can't just look at an environment, you have to be in an enclosed space where inhabitants are living to have an idea what is actually there. And so because we're moving into a new environment, we have this opportunity before we keep building more and more homes to see if there's any concerns, and we can start, even changing some of the code if needed, to mitigate those issues in homes. So there's places in BC, for example, that have high radon, and so when they build those homes, there are some code compliance pieces that have to be done for those homes to meet the standards for that area because of our high radon. So there's, you can live in a radon environment, but you also have to be aware of how to sort of build your homes for that. And so a great opportunity. We had a huge intake. I think we had BC Cancer, Health Canada, and Anne-Marie to be able to talk about that. And we had over 100 people attend our event.
I remember I was there. There was a lineup.
Yes, there was a lineup.
And we had session 1 and session 2, presentation 1, presentation 2, and it was very, very well appreciated. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
I actually got a kit. I was one of the lucky one. I got a kit. I got my home tested, and it came up like basically nothing.
You were good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's good to know. I have little children,
100%.
This is the place I want to be for a long time. And I was curious and I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So now question, do I have to test again?
So in your home, no, I don't think you need to. Maybe in like if it's many years in the future, if you have cracks in your foundation and you think that could be a concern. Again, radon comes from ventilation, usually from the bottom up. So, but I would think not. Though, again, there could be pockets of radon, so you could be having a very low rate, but say the people across the river from you have an increased rate. So it isn't the same for everybody. So it's important to see and have the quality of how the homes were built. Some of the concerns too are because of homes are built. Are so properly built, so there's very little air ventilation coming in and out from homes, that's where the radon is being trapped. And so it's a good thing for your heating bill and your air conditioning bill, but for toxins such as radon, it gets trapped.
Interesting.
And
yes,
so I think your home is safe. Again, I'm not the expert, so you'd have to reach out about that. But it is, if you haven't had it done, I believe you can even borrow kits from the library. So through that program, there are some kits that you can borrow from the Coquitlam library and put it into your home and see what the ratings are. Yeah.
Isabel, I know we can talk about everything forever, but we're going to stop here, and we want to welcome you another time, maybe next year, and tell us what happened in 2025. And I'm really happy that you and all the members are here and are watching for us, are watching for a community. I'm part of it personally, so I'm really happy to know that we are creating a tight community like this where I live and where all the Burke Mountain residents reside. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
From the Tri-Cities Community Television and myself, Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre, thank you so much for watching us today.